What's going on, everybody? It's a new year and let's take a bump in 2025. I've got a lot of videos that I've been recording and editing and they're going to be coming out very shortly. A lot of them are 2024 recap videos. I know we're already a week into 2025, but they've been a lot to work on. I've had a lot on the sides to work on, but this video is going to be a little special. I had just watched Wrestle Dynasty yesterday and Wrestle Kingdom the day before, and I got to thinking what we're going to see from AEW's Forbidden Door in 2025. Their cross-promotional show with New Japan Pro Wrestling and CMLL as well. And what Wrestle Dynasty kind of hinted at or could lead to is a big AEW versus New Japan show. In the past, Forbidden Door has kind of just been like a showcase between the two, not necessarily heavy on story, and you know, we would just see some great matches. But this year I think could be the biggest in terms of storylines in Forbidden Door history. So I think the biggest indicator of this is kind of how AEW walked out of Wrestle Dynasty. How the Young Bucks won the tag titles. Kenny beat Gabe Kidd, and Gabe was kind of representing New Japan throughout that entire match. He even had the crowd roaring for Gabe instead of Kenny Omega, who's arguably the bigger star. And you also have some other indicators like Mercedes Moné defending the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, as well as winning the Rev Pro Women's Championship. You had Tekla and Athena get into kind of a feud, and you've got a lot coming out of Wrestle Dynasty that could lead to a big cross-promotional show. Not just, you know, a showcase, but instead almost like a Survivor Series kind of thing. This could also be Bullet Club heavy as well. You know, AEW started with the foundation of Bullet Club with their All-In pay-per-view, and that led to the AEW we have now. I mean, most if not all of the EVPs are former Bullet Club members. Actually, all of them. You had Cody, the Bucks, Hangman, and Kenny. They were all members of Bullet Club. Now, with War Dogs and this kind of, you know, them not being rebels so much, rather them like taking pride in New Japan, but just wanting to take New Japan in the direction that they want. I think that can lead to something huge for Forbidden Door. I've also drafted kind of a hefty card for Forbidden Door that I think we could see if this goes this route. I mean, obviously, you know, Tony Khan has not been any stranger to dropping storylines and leaving things unfinished, but hopefully he sees kind of the draw in something like this. So a big match that I think we could be seeing, if, you know, this would require kind of New Japan to go some routes. This would require AEW to go some routes. But I think Bullet Club War Dogs needs a heavy. They need a heater. And Gabe Kidd, after losing to Kenny, not exactly the heater. He is potentially the world title guy, but I don't think he is the guy who could go into a Forbidden Door, challenge Kenny for a rematch, and there would be a realistic chance of Gabe Kidd winning. Even if they did a stipulation match, you know, the match at Dynasty was already very brutal, almost like deathmatch levels. So I think what they would instead do is have kind of promote a former world champion among War Dogs to be their heater. I don't think David Finlay is on that level to face a Kenny. So I think they would have Sonata move up as that heavy. I think a match we could see is Kenny Omega versus Sonata. Probably not for any title, rather for just, you know, pride in New Japan. Something we could also see is obviously the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion needs a match at this card. We would have the Elite be a big player in this versus storyline. And a big player in that is Okada. Okada is a massive member of the Elite, history with New Japan. And I think Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kazuchika Okada could be the match that we see. When Zack, after defending the championship against Ricochet, he said New Japan is the best promotion in the world. So that's the continued pride in New Japan that Gabe Kidd had. And even it wasn't just Gabe Kidd, it was the other War Dogs. He had D. Maloney and Clark Connors, also proud of repping New Japan as well. So Zack saying that New Japan's the best promotion in the world, imagine the heat, the vitriol when Okada, whose roots are in New Japan, when he says no, AEW's the best in the world. You even had Chris Carlton go off about how, Tony Khan is paying Okada a lot of money to just say bitch and flip people off. I think that match would end with Okada losing to Zack, because Zack has never gotten one up on Okada, and now that Zack is in a better position, he's the world heavyweight champion after all, I think this could finally be the chance for Zack to get one up on Okada, especially after he beat Danielson, who beat Okada previously. Another match I think we could see kind of a rekindling of some conflict, not necessarily a feud, but this would start a feud. David Finlay versus Jay White, or alternatively David Finlay and Gabe Kidd versus Jay White and Juice Robinson, because David Finlay was the one who kicked Jay White out of Bullet Club, and then he took up the mantle as leader of Bullet Club. And I don't think Finlay is in any position to be challenging for a world championship. I wouldn't see him against the Mox or something. I wouldn't see him in anywhere higher than a feud with Jay White. And Jay and Juice would be a good tag team against Gabe Kidd and Finlay, because I don't see anywhere really for Finlay to have a match on this card, unfortunately, or for Gabe Kidd to have a match on this card. So I think him tagging with Finlay would kind of be the best option to get him in somewhere here. Now, of course, another match that needs to be had is a match for the tag team championships, which the Young Bucks walked away with, and that would be a crucial, Elite versus Bullet Club match that we need to happen. So you get the War Dogs in to be challenging for those tag titles. Now, which combination of the War Dogs? I don't really know, because Alex Conklin was their heavyweight tag guy. I think he was tagging with Gabe Kidd, I think. And he's out indefinitely. I think he's retired, actually. So we could see Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors be challenging the Bucks for those tag titles. Now, if it's them, I definitely think the Bucks would go over, and then they would, lose the titles at a different point, because in New Japan, Maloney and Connors are not heavyweights, so they wouldn't be holding those championships. Who knows what could happen? Maybe, they would give them that. They definitely look like heavyweights, but I don't think that they would be given those titles. We'll see, but I think that is very much the matchup we could see. Especially, you had Maloney and Connors ringside for Kidd versus Omega, so they are already involved with all this, and I think them versus the Bucks would be such an incredible match. Another match we could see, which was already hinted at, or not hinted at, but we've got the storyline already going, is Moxley versus Shota Umino. So he's already on the track to face Mox at a certain point, and apparently Claudio was put in that match because Mox just refused to show. So I think Forbidden Door would be the best place to have a Mox Shota match. I couldn't see them not main eventing a New Japan show, but I think they could be in a spot at Forbidden Door. Not the main event. I think the main event would be like Zack Okada or actually maybe it would be Shota Mox, because Mox is the world champion after all. And he might be still at that point. We'll see. But that could very much be... I guarantee if this were to happen that would be a match on the card. Next, I think, you can't have a Forbidden Door without Will Ospreay. And I think that maybe they could just, continue the Fletcher-Ospreay storyline just a little bit and bring United Empire to the mix, because we really hadn't gotten any United Empire crossover with the storyline, except Mark Davis coming back, but he's not in New Japan anymore. He's not like the core United Empire anymore. So I have here Ospreay and Jeff Cobb versus Takeshita and Fletcher. And Takeshita's now the new Never Openweight champion. And there's already, a bunch of single matches I have on this card. So I think that Takeshita and Fletcher on a tag team is a very appropriate match for this card. Next, we need a women's match on the card, at least. Mercedes Moné versus Saya Kamitani. Now, Mercedes Moné looking like a belt collector. I think she has 4 belts right now. And Saya Kamitani also doing the same thing. She just took the title off of Tam Nakano at Stardom Queendom. And she took like the main belt in Stardom. Whether or not she'll win the IWGP Women's Championship, we'll see. That's kind of... I'm unsure if that's going to happen, but she also collected a belt. I forget which promotion she went to. Maybe it was Ice Ribbon or something. She's starting to collect belts as well. Now, her versus Mercedes would be an incredible match. If you haven't seen anything from Saya Kamitani recently, she's now a heel. She's the leader of Hate. And she has just an incredible aura around her. Her versus Mercedes would be outstanding. And, put all the belts on the line, or put like maybe the Strong Women's or the Stardom belt, one of the two, and you would have an incredible match right there. Now, the last piece of the puzzle is Hiroshi Tanahashi, who's retiring in 2026's Wrestle Kingdom. He would definitely need a match on this card. Now the question is, who is he fighting? Who does he tag with? I have no clue. I was up in bed last night trying to figure that out, but I got nothing. Absolutely nothing. The best I could come up with, and this, I don't even like this, but it was him and Katsuyori Shibata teaming against Christian Cage and Nick Wayne, something like that. Like, because that's the story Shibata's in, I think. Actually, no, a 6-man match. Tanahashi, Shibata, and Hook against Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. Not a great match. I mean, it's nothing spectacular, but with this hefty card that I have, I think a trios match could, be necessary. And a good place to put Tanahashi in. I mean, he'd be in a match against like a big name Christian Cage, a veteran, and he'd be teaming with Shibata, who's he had a match with at Wrestle Dynasty and has been a big player in his retirement tour. And Hook would be, it would be an honor, I assume, for him to team with Hiroshi Tanahashi, such a big name. That I think everyone would benefit from a match like this, and it doesn't really, overshadow any of the other matches that are on the card. So that's what I've got right now. I'm really hoping we see something like this and it's not just dropped, because it was definitely, the directions were pointed that way. And, the Young Bucks have to defend those titles at some point and lose them at some point. So I think we'll be seeing them at Forbidden Door with those titles at the very least. But the biggest thing I'm looking forward to if this happens is Zack versus Okada, because the heat Okada would get, and Zack hopefully getting one up on Okada finally. I think there's no reason, if this were to happen, to have Okada win over Zack. And I think all directions would point to Zack winning this. But But it's all just, you know, I want to say this is fantasy booking, but it's also kind of predictions at the same time. I want to say this is like me predicting this card instead of, because if it was me fantasy booking, Tanahashi would have much better match than that, you know, trios match. But, and so would Ospreay. But let me know what you think about a potential AEW versus New Japan show and what we could be seeing out of the new year from these two promotions. What do you want to see from the champions, Mox and Zack Sabre Jr.? Would you want to see them fight? That would be a very interesting match. But let me know in the comments. But until then, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye!